enough stalling. We need to get in this because this is going to take us a while. Chat, we are going to do well.
Good night, Ember, and everyone in chat. See you on Sunday.
Good night, JRC. No, Rook, this is why I'm doing it at the beginning of the reacts like this. So we have enough time and I don't have to rush through it. Not that I have to worry about going over. It's Friday. It's not like I work tomorrow. But I want to do this first. Just to get it done. So let's take a look at this. This is the one. Nick was really excited to put this one together. I heard him on the Unsub podcast talking about putting together putting this together on Billy Waugh. And I'm interested. This is like, you know, the godfather of the Green Berets. So obviously that has my attention. So let's get into it.
And I quote, "From Korea to Afghanistan and every conflict in between, I have fought whomever my country has ordered me to fight. For 50 years in 64 countries, I have sought and destroyed the enemies of my country, whether they be called communists or terrorists, wherever they hide."
Wow.
Today we're talking about Billy Waugh, aka the godfather of the Green Berets. Now I'm here to tell you the story about Billy Waugh, but we have to get one thing very clear right out of the gate. Whether you want to admit it or not, everybody wants to be cool. I want to be cool, you want to be cool, but none of us will ever be as cool as Billy Waugh showing off his integrally suppressed MP5 at the age of 72 while...
Holy crap, this man... Wait, while what? Hang on. While what? I think I need context.
Waugh showing off his integrally suppressed MP5 at the age of 72 while he was actively hunting Osama bin Laden.
At the age of 72, this man was hunting Osama bin Laden. Holy shit. Yeah, Nick is right. None of us can ever dream of being as cool or as much of a badass as this man. We cannot even dream of it. Well, like, at 72, he looks like a badass. Okay? She looks like a badass at 72 in this picture. Like, holy crap!
5 at the age of 72 while he was actively hunting Osama bin Laden. And full transparency, this is usually the part of the video where I have a cool monologue lined up.
Did he say 75 or 72?
5 at the age of 72 while he was actively hunting Osama bin Laden. And full transparency, this is usually the part of the video where I have a cool monologue lined up that's designed to hook you and draw you into this story, but today, I'm just going to read you this old man's rap sheet. One of the only men to ever jump out of a plane with a nuclear warhead strapped to his body. He is a pioneer of halo jumping. His awards are as...
I'm sorry? Nick, are we just going to breeze over the part where this motherfucker did a jump with a goddamn nuclear warhead strapped to his fucking chest? We're just gonna breeze past that, huh? Holy fuck, this guy is Fallout for real. No, this guy was the original fucking Helldiver. Holy shit, Billy Waugh is the original Helldiver with the Hellbomb backpack. Billy Waugh literally had the Hellbomb, the portable Hellbomb. Managed democracy.
Follows: 1 silver star, 4 bronze stars with V device, 4 Army Commendation medals, 14 air medals, 2 combat infantry badges, and 8 purple hearts.
But I'm not done yet.
Airplane crashes survived. 2 helicopter crashes survived. 3 number of enemies killed in combat unknown. Number of missions completed redacted. The unclassified men of note that he has hunted: Edwin P. Wilson, General Giap, Osama bin Laden, and probably the most notorious terrorist of all time, Carlos the Jackal. Decades in operation. 5.
Thank you, Phantom, for tier 1 6 months in advance. Thank you so much. And hi. Yeah. Hang on, I'm gonna back it up again.
Carlos the Jackal. Decades in operation, 5. Countries he's operated in, 64. Number of times that he was captured by the enemy, 0. And we're going to get to it right after a word from our sponsor.
Nicholas.
Not once captured by the enemy. 5 decades of service, never once caught. Like, even some of the most badass soldiers that Nick has talked about have been caught by the enemy, which has not detracted from their badassness. This man was never even caught by an enemy. The reef. Walk. Chat. This man is better than Solid fucking Snake. This man is better than Sam Fisher. Solid Snake and Sam Fisher have this man's poster on their wall, and they're doing the Wolverine meme of stroking his image, going, I want to be you. Leaf. In the dictionary, under badass, his picture is beside it, and that's the only definition that you require.
Sponsor.
Nicholas, what is this?
That's the new CMMG BR4.
When did you get it?
I've had it.
Nice recovery.
No, I would have remembered something like this.
This is an old one, isn't it?
I just got it, but I had to because it's the only one they Cerakoted to look like a Busch Light can.
So you got a new toy. What do I get?
I mean, what do you want?
I don't know. I'll do some shopping and I'll let you know. So have fun with the ad.
Mayday! Mayday!
This video is brought to you by Delete Me. Okay, super
this
simple
is an old ad.
business model.
Yeah,
You
it
give
is an
them
old
money,
ad.
They turn around and they make sure that online data brokers are not selling your personal information online. Okay, here's the deal. Pretty much anytime you use a free service on the internet and you click that little box that says, I agree to the terms and conditions, you've basically just agreed to allow them to harvest as much of your personal information as humanly possible. They then turn around and sell that to online data brokers, and that's how they can afford to offer you a free service. But when you have Delete Me, they go and they monitor all of these online data brokers for your personal information, and then if they find it, they submit all the opt-out forms on your behalf.
Well, Xanax, Solid Snake is based. I don't know if Solid Snake is based upon him. I don't know.
You're just buying your way
maybe
out of all the negative
Nick will
consequences
talk
of all
about
the
it.
free shit that you've already gotten. And because they continue to monitor those data brokers, you're buying yourself out of all the future negative consequences of all the free shit that you haven't even gotten yet. So if you
no,
want
wait,
to give Delete Me a
isn't
try,
Solid
there's gonna be a
Snake
link in
based
the
off
discount
of
code
Kurt
down
Russell's
below. Let's get back
character?
to the video.
Anyway, back to the video.
All right, our story begins in Bastrop, Texas on December 1st, 1929, when a beautiful, adorable little baby boy named Billy Waugh is brought into the world. Which should be unsurprising at this point because it feels like every single badass we cover on this channel either has bad eyesight and has to con their way into the military, or they're born in Texas for some reason. Either way, like all the other war heroes from World War II, he was born during or right after the Great Depression, grew up in extreme poverty down in Texas. At the age of 10, Billy's father passes away from liver cirrhosis, and from that point on, he begins working 3 jobs to help his mother put food on the table because she's only a substitute teacher. He's stocking groceries at the local grocery store, he's a paper boy, and he's running the concession stand at the local movie theater. As I'm sure you can imagine, under these circumstances, he matures very quickly for his age, and on top of that, he's also very intelligent, having straight A's the entire time he's in school. Several years later, when Billy's 12 years old...
Okay, let's not skip over that. This is back in the early 1930s. And he's, 1930s or 1940s, depending on how old he was at the time. But he's working 3 fucking jobs and getting straight A's in school. Let's not brush that aside. Working 3 jobs means he has very little time to study. Because he's working these 3 jobs. This guy is just naturally really fucking smart. Right off the fucking jump. Like, this is like even more impressive than some of the others that we've seen before, where it's like, okay, they're working hard, they come from an impoverished family, and they have to work really hard, which obviously builds their character. It's not only that, he's doing a fuck ton of work, and still getting straight A's. That's impressive.
Seemingly on a random Sunday in December of 1941, while he's working the concession stand at his local movie theater, the sheriff barges in and orders the person running the projector to cut the movie off and turn the lights on. The local sheriff then gets up on stage in front of the movie screen and addresses the entire theater, informing them that America has just been attacked at Pearl Harbor by the Empire of Japan, and he doesn't know what's going to happen next. You gotta remember, this is 1941 and news travels slowly. Nobody really knows what's going on. All they know is that America is under attack, and because of that, his local sheriff plans for the worse. He tells them that at any given moment, men with guns could begin parachuting out of the sky to attack them, or planes could start flying overhead and begin bombing American cities. Because of this, the local sheriff orders everybody to go home, lock your doors, turn the lights off, and cover your windows with sheets to not be an identifiable target for an overhead enemy plane. Hearing this, all the people funnel out of the movie theater. Billy...
Honestly, I never realized that I don't think I realized that this was a thing in the US. Because this is the standard light discipline protocol that the UK had, when London was under siege and they were getting constant, aerial bombardments. That's standard light pro. I didn't realize that people in the US were doing it initially after Pearl Harbor. That's gotta be pretty fucking... They got it from... Well, it makes sense that they would get it from the British. No, and I appreciate the fact that they did not have to officially adopt it, but I didn't realize that they did it kind of at all. After Pearl Harbor. I'm trying to remember, there was one mainland attack at some point during World War II. I think it might have been Alaska, but I don't remember exactly. There was one attempt at a mainland attack on America that easily got repelled and they never tried it again. But, yeah.
He stays for a little bit, closes down the concession stand, helps close down the movie theater, and then goes home. For the next 3 years, Billy volunteers for every shift he can get at that movie theater because he wants to be able to watch the newsreels of what's going on in the military right before the movie plays. He becomes obsessed with it. He wants to join the military and fight back, but he's only a kid. And this goes on for years. And then when he's 15 years old, he hears a rumor that in California, the United States Marine Corps is allowing 15-year-olds to enlist and go off and fight the Japanese. Hearing this, Billy drops everything and just starts hitchhiking to California. No money, no ID, no plan, nothing. Over the course of a couple of days, he makes it all the way to Las Cruces, New Mexico, and he gets picked up by the local police department for being out past curfew. 15-year-old Billy, unable to produce an ID, gets taken into the police station. He then proceeds to tell the cops everything. He's a 15-year-old kid. He's running away from home to join the Marine Corps. The cops tell him, like, hey, literally just a rumor. That's not true. The Marines are not letting 15-year-olds enlist, at least not knowingly. So we're not going to let you continue hitchhiking across the entire country. We're going to make sure you go back home. So you get to stay here until you can come up with enough money to buy a bus ticket. We're going to take that money, buy you a bus ticket, and ship your ass back home to Texas. So Billy, at the age of 15, does what any main character badass would do. He calls mom, begs mom to send him money. She agrees that she's going to wire money to the police department, but only if he promises her that he is going to finish high school. And he reluctantly agrees, gets the bus ticket, goes back home. So Billy goes right back to doing what he was doing. He's working at the movie theater, and around this point in time, the newsreels start showing a new Army unit that they've come up with, an Army airborne unit where paratroopers are going to jump out of planes into enemy territory and fight.
Why is it? How many of these have we seen where the main character sees the airborne as like Yahtzee? This is like I think this is the third one in a row that we've seen from Nick. Where, yeah, it's like the third one in a row now, I think. Where the main character sees the airborne troopers and is like, I'm in. That's me. I want to do that. Hell yes, all the way. What? As the saying goes, why would you want to jump out of a perfectly good airplane?
fight the enemy from within, and Billy becomes obsessed. He wants to be a paratrooper more than anything. When Billy's not in school and he's not working, he's reading about being a paratrooper, and he finds out that the most important, most unique part of a paratrooper's kit is the unique jump boots that they use, and he wants a pair more than anything. So he starts slowly saving up nickels and dimes, whatever money he can get, until he can go off and buy his very own pair of paratrooper boots. And this goes on for years. He lives up to his word, fulfilling his promise.
Wait. Were they selling paratrooper boots commercially to the average citizen? I didn't think that, really. Like, nowadays, hearing that, it's like, okay, yeah, of course they would. I didn't think that back, in the 1940s, that they would sell military uniforms outside of military bases. I didn't think that was a thing. Huh. Surplus was, okay, so surplus was big back then too, huh? Okay, I had no idea. Okay. Well, no, I realize it's called military surplus, but I didn't think it was a thing back in the 1940s. Saddles. Yes.
To his mom. He does graduate high school with a 4.0 and then immediately enlists in the United States Army to become a paratrooper. And he does exactly that. He becomes a paratrooper, gets attached to the 82nd Airborne Division out of Fort Bragg. No, not that one. Definitely not that one. There you go, that one.
Wait, what was the first ones that he showed? Hang on.
The trooper gets attached to the 82nd Airborne Division out of Fort Bragg.
Okay.
No, not that one. Definitely not that one. There you go.
Wait, I'm confused. Yeah, it's the same base, but he changed the photos. Is this him? Is this Billy Waugh? It's gotta be. Okay. Yeah, and I heard that I heard that I know the first picture was of General Bragg. That I do know. I'm guessing this is a picture of Billy Waugh, which, okay, I like that. And yeah, but didn't they change the name back? They just renamed Fort Bragg to Fort Bragg again after a different Bragg. Oh, they renamed it to another Bragg. Okay, yeah, like they changed it to Fort Liberty, but I heard that they changed it back. It recently got changed back to Fort Bragg. Okay, which, thank fucking God. Yeah, like, thank fucking God they changed it back to Fort, officially. Like, yeah, no one I can think of ever stopped calling it Fort Bragg. Even when they changed it to Fort Liberty, I doubt anyone stopped calling it Bragg. Not a one.
Go, that one. Now, by the time Billy gets through training and is actually out in the Army, World War II is over. There's no prospects of going to combat on the horizon, and he kind of hates it the entire time. It's basically like work out in the morning, clean your guns, maintenance cars in the motor pool, doing a bunch of stuff that isn't being out in combat, so Billy absolutely hates it. And this goes on for years, and right as Billy's contract's about to be up...
Oh, hang on, I want to see this. On February 10th, 2025, Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth issued a memorandum directing the Army to rename Fort Liberty back to Fort Bragg, but this time in honor of Private First Class Roland L. Bragg. Oh. Kaibo, can you find out anything about Private First Class Roland Bragg and why they chose him for the name? Out of curiosity.
He has to decide whether he's going to re-enlist or not. The Korean War kicks off, so Billy re-enlists for another 3 years, just at the prospect of potentially getting to go off into combat. And Billy gets just that. He goes over to Korea as a private first class, fights through the entire war, and by the time the Korean War is over, he is a sergeant first class, which is a pretty rapid ascend through the ranks. Reflecting on
he's 3 years. Let's see. Private PFC, Corporal, Sergeant E5, Sergeant E5. So, Jesus. Holy crap, that's 5 ranks in 3 years. That's, actually no, he was already PFC, so 4 ranks. 4 ranks in 3 years, that's impressive. That is really fucking impressive. Yes, Grainos, it is. Most people, okay, Now, bearing in mind, I'm going at it from the perspective of modern day ranking. Most people in the Army usually only hit E4, over the course of 3 years. And to become an NCO, now obviously it might have been very different back then. Being an NCO, you had to go to NCO school, and that takes time, and then you have to spend time as an E5 sergeant, and then you get the E6 sergeant. So doing it in 3 years is very impressive. Well, this was before the E4 Mafia, Canito. The E4 back then was corporal, not necessarily specialist. Let's see, Rowan Leon Bragg, June of 23 to January of 99, was a U.S. Army paratrooper during World War II. Bragg is awarded the Silver Star of the United States, third highest decoration for valor. Nice! Okay. Well, there you go. Lovely.
In the Korean War, he said, and I quote, "I didn't like the Army at all until I got my first taste of combat in Korea. For the first time in my military life, I felt completely at home." After the Korean War, Billy gets orders that he's going to be stationed in Augsburg, Germany, so he starts making his way there, and as he's making his way there, he boards a train to go into Germany, and on that train, there's a couple of sergeants, and these sergeants have a weird patch that he's never seen before. It's an airborne patch. There's only a couple of airborne units, and it's weird that he's never seen this one before. It's this red shield with a plane and a parachuter jumping out the bottom of it. So he goes up and asks the sergeants, like, "Hey, what unit is this? I've never even heard of you guys." At first, they're kind of being secretive, but over the course of this train ride, Billy keeps prying at him, and eventually they tell him that they're part of a new secret unit that just got formed called the 10th Special Forces. And this is America's first official Special Forces unit that would eventually grow and become what we know today as the Green Berets. And the reason they were called the 10th Special Forces is because they were so secretive that if anybody did ever find out about them, they wanted them to find out about the 10th Special Forces unit, making people think that there must be at least 9 others, when in reality there was actually only 1. So Billy keeps prying. He's like, "Cool, that's great, but like, what do you guys actually do? Like, what does being Special Forces even mean?" Because the concept wasn't even known at the time. And these guys are like, "Honestly, we don't even know yet. We're just getting highly trained in absolutely everything, and we're supposed to be a force multiplier on the battlefield. We're supposed to be the guys that go on all the top secret, super dangerous missions that nobody talks about." And hearing that, Billy...
I do have to wonder, they're supposed to be in this super duper secret unit, the 10th Special Forces, which is super duper secret, and they open up to this E6 on a train. Yeah, this is what we are. Like, I'm sorry, that just sounds wild. That sounds crazy that they just vomit up all of this information about their unit on a train ride to Germany. Or E7, sorry, E7. Wait. Yes. Sorry, yeah, E7, sorry. God only knows why I was thinking E6. Yeah, Brockle, it could be. I mean, this is a brand new unit, so E6 Dragon. Head out of the gutter, Deemer. I haven't gone that route yet. Just be patient.
He's immediately sold. He has to be a part of this unit, so he starts asking questions, and they're like, "Actually, we are looking for people to come and join."
Shadows, I'm gonna correct you on that. Specialists, 100% were in combat units. Specialists were not devoted to non-combat units. They 100% had them. What it was is you were a specialist, and you had the option to become a corporal. So that's I'm not sure where you're getting that from, but it's like corporals and specialists are indeed in combat units. It's not reserved for the non-comps.
He starts asking questions, and they're like, "Actually, we are looking for people to come and join the organization and be a part of it that have a bunch of combat experience. You're a sergeant first class. You could probably apply and go through the training process and maybe make it onto one of the teams." And he does just that. Billy applies, ends up getting accepted, becomes one of America's first ever Green Berets. And for the next 5 years, we don't really know what Billy was up to. Potentially, it wasn't worth mentioning, or more likely, it hasn't been declassified yet. But what we do know, when asked about it, Billy said, and I quote, "I helped develop new ways to fuck with the enemy to the max from within." Over the course
Dante. The haste. I'm sorry, when someone asks for what your job description is, and you say, I created new ways to fuck with the bad guys from inside their lines, you know you are dealing with a badass at that point. There's no other descriptor that can fit.
This 5 years, Billy climbs to the top. He's one of the best operators that America has. He's literally a leader in a tier 1 unit. If you don't know what that means, there's 3 tiers. Typically speaking, tier 3 is like your normal ground pounding infantry units. This is like your 82nd Airborne, your 101st, your 10th Mountain Division, your conventional warfare guys. Tier 2, which is often confused with tier 3, is your normal Navy SEALs, Army Rangers, Green Berets. And then they have tryouts and they take the best from tier 2 and put them in a tier 1 unit. So this is the things you've heard of like Delta Force, CAG, SEAL Team 6, the unit. These are all tier 1 guys, and Billy is a leader at the tier 1 level. So when Billy does come back into focus or on the record in 1960, this is like the peak of the Cold War. There's all kinds of crazy new ideas going on of like what the future of warfare is going to look like. Everybody's investing in nuclear bombs, trying to figure out new ways to implement nuclear warfare. We've got America with Atomic Annie figuring out how to shoot nukes out of artillery. We've got the British over here developing chicken-powered nuclear landmines. We've got the Davy Crockett, which is where American soldiers...
By the Emperor, don't let the rebels know about this guy.
Well, I think we're safe right now. I'm pretty sure he passed away. So, I think he did. I could be wrong. Maybe he could still be alive. I'm not sure, but I think he passed away.
Soldiers are trained to shoot a small nuclear warhead out the side of a moving Jeep with a recoilless rifle. And while this nuclear landmines, we've got the Davy Crockett, which is where American soldiers are trained to shoot a small nuclear warhead out the side of a moving Jeep with a recoilless rifle. And while all this crazy shit's going on, somebody inside the US government realizes like, hey, this is all great, but there's a lot of work involved. You know what I mean? I have to get this giant artillery piece in the right place at the right time, or I have to get a Jeep on the ground, or I have to bury a chicken-powered nuclear landmine. What if I just want to create a second spawn point for the sun in secrecy to really surprise the enemy? So the United States, in top secrecy, created green light teams. The idea was basically take the best Green Berets that we have, train them to jump out of a plane, like with a parachute, with an atomic bomb strapped to them. They would then land, sneak behind enemy lines, plant the nuclear bomb wherever it needed to be planted, set it on a multiple hour-long timer, and fucking run. And Billy is selected to be
It's Helldivers. It's fucking Helldivers with the Hell Bomb. Holy shit. Okay, in my headcanon right now, oh, he passed away 2 years ago. Okay. In my headcanon, Arrowhead Studios got the idea for the portable Hell Bomb from Billy Waugh. That is my headcanon. You cannot change my mind. Okay? You cannot change my mind. That's where they got the idea.
The leader of one of these teams. Okay, just so we're all on the same page. It is now Billy's job to jump out of a plane with a portable star strapped to his cock, sneak behind enemy lines, arm a nuclear warhead, and...
Oh, okay. Hang on. I'm going to move. You need to see the full picture on this one. Okay?
Star strapped...
That's the nuke. He literally does have a nuclear bomb strapped to his cock. I hope he's wearing a lead jockstrap. Oh my God. This man's balls are in the Guinness Book of Balls. Okay?
To his cock, sneak behind enemy lines, arm a nuclear warhead, and get out of the blast radius as fast as possible. Okay, I don't think you understand the gravity of what I've just said, okay? Most military personnel aren't trusted with shit, okay? The average infantry grunt is trusted to go into combat with a machine gun and kill the enemy. He's also not trusted to be responsible enough to have a fucking toaster oven in his barracks bedroom. And then you've got Billy over here,
who's is that true? Is that true? Someone, ex-military people, please tell me, is it true that you cannot have a toaster oven in your barracks room? Really? You have gotta be fucking kidding me. What does the military think you all were 5-year-olds? Or a space heater? What the fuck? Oh my god. Yeah, the military can be pretty fucking stupid sometimes. I mean, why the hell do you think you have the fire guard, you know?
Barracks bedroom. And then you've got Billy over here, who's such a badass that Uncle Sam is like, oh, you want to jump out of a plane with a live nuclear warhead and then carry it behind enemy lines to put it in the right spot, arm it yourself, and then dip? I don't see a problem with that. Okay, this is literally insanity. Luckily, America never elects to use this option actually in combat, so in 1961, Billy gets sent off onto another mission called Operation White Star in Laos.
Yeah.
Now you gotta remember, this is like peak Cold War. America is still very much running on the Truman Doctrine. If you don't know what the Truman Doctrine is, quick, dirty, oversimplified version. Basically, America views communism like it views cancer, and they're committed to do whatever it takes to stop it from spreading. So whenever a country is being threatened by communism, they're gonna send in money, guns, they're gonna send in Green Berets to train people in guerrilla warfare. They're gonna do anything and everything they can within or outside of the realm of the Geneva Convention to make sure that communism doesn't spread any more than it has to. And that's basically what Operation White Star is. Billy goes over to Laos and begins training rice farmers in guerrilla warfare tactics and giving them weapons so they're able to fight off communists should they come. So that goes on for about a year and a half, and then Geneva steps in and is like, hey, you can't do that. It's a war crime, whatever. So America's like, oh, are bad, and then America proceeds to stop doing that, and Billy immediately goes straight from Laos right next door to Vietnam and continues doing the same exact thing. Now, by this point in 1962, Vietnam has already been split for a while. North and South Vietnam officially split in 1954, so you have the North, which is the communist NVA that's being backed by China and the Soviet Union, and then you have the South that's being backed by the United States. Bear in mind, the Vietnam War, as America knows it, doesn't start until 1965 after the incident at the Gulf of Tonkin, so Billy is there before the Vietnam War even starts, between 1962 and 1965, pretty much the entire time, where him and men like him train and equip over 87,000 South Vietnamese to fight the enemies to the north. So by 1965, when America does get directly involved, Billy's already been there for 3 years. He knows the people, he knows the culture, he knows the terrain, he's acclimated to the climate, and he basically has trained his own army at this point. And he immediately gets to work leading these men into combat, conducting raids. June 17th, 1965, Billy is going to lead a 90-man element to conduct a raid. This element is comprised of himself, 2 other Green Berets, 1 guy from the CIA, and 86 South Vietnamese that he has already trained. So Billy's going into this with 3 other guys.
And he's trained them. So, remember when we've watched about Benavides? And they were talking about the, you know, this is actually way the fuck off topic. But see, with Benavides, we were, you know, there was talk about the North Vietnamese, how they had their own, like, special ops units out there. Like, he's basically got, like, Billy basically has his own 80-man spec ops team. Because he's trained them. So you know that they were trained like fucking like Delta. Or at least as much as he could. So he basically has an 80-man Delta team. At his, like, an 80-man Delta army to play with. Imagine having an 80-man Delta army to play with on the battlefield. That's what Billy got. I think he might be able to fuck some shit up.
That actually know what's going on, and then 86 newbies that, who knows, as soon as the bullets start flying, they might drop their guns and run off. He has no idea. But they're launching an ambush, so that's probably the best possible outcome. Hopefully they're going to be able to surprise the enemy and kill off everybody before too much happens, boost these guys' morale, give them some combat experience, get confidence, the whole 9 yards. So Billy's leading this huge element through the jungle, advancing towards the objective, moving in dead silence, and as they come up, Billy sees an NVA scout up ahead about 500 meters away from the target, obviously just out out there on guard duty, walking through patrol. Dude's not expecting anything. He's got his AK-47 slung around his shoulder. He's smoking a cigarette, hanging out. He's done this 500 times. Nothing's ever happened. He's not suspecting anything. So Billy kind of like hunkers down, orders one of his South Vietnamese guys to sneak up on him and kill him with his knife. Dude does exactly that. They keep advancing towards the target, and as they're about 200 meters away from the objective, he walks right up on two people hunched over picking up firewood. It's a man and a woman. Billy immediately thinks to himself, oh shit, okay, this is probably the cooks. They're getting firewood to cook breakfast super early in the morning. Maybe I can like capture them and hog tie them and gag them and then come back for him later and release them. Or like he's trying to figure something, and while he's figuring that out in his head, the man turns around, sees Billy, reaches for his pistol. Billy immediately lunges forward, kills him with his knife. As that's going on, the woman grabs a piece of firewood and begins hitting Billy with it. He ultimately ends up killing her as well, and that made some noise. So now Billy's thinking, okay, we got to pick this operation up and move a lot faster, because if some sentry heard that and they come to investigate and find us, we're going to lose the element of surprise, and then all hell's going to break loose. So Billy splits up the element into 4 groups, each one being led by either himself, a Green Beret, or the CIA guy, and they hightail it towards this objective. So they roll up on the objective. It's this enemy camp, and there's these 3 bamboo hooches that are like 40 feet wide. Billy guesstimates how many beds are inside of each hooch, figuring they're working in shifts, 3 guys to a bed, does the quick math in his head. At most, there's 250 guys here. He's got 90 plus the element of surprise. This shouldn't be an issue. So Billy gives the order to attack. They open up with gunfire.
Okay, only a Green Beret would say, yeah, there's probably 200 enemy. I've got 80. Yeah, not a problem. Not a problem. Only a Green Beret would think like this. And rightly so. I mean, they are Green Berets. Yeah, the only thing that would be the only one that would make it different is if it was a Cav Scout, because then they'd say, "Oh goody, I get to play."
The element of surprise, this shouldn't be an issue. So Billy gives the order to attack. They open up with gunfire. They're throwing grenades. They basically level this hooch, and the entire battle is over before it really even starts. Billy guesstimates they killed about 150 NVA soldiers. The rest probably ran off into the jungle. His men are celebrating.
Okay,
they're
Silver,
cheering. You've got
have a
celebratory
wonderful birthday dinner
gunfire.
with
They're
Mom.
raiding all the stuff. They're picking up all the Soviet weapons. They're examining everything. And then, off in the distance, Billy hears a bugle. At this point, Billy's surrounded by a bunch of noobs. None of these guys know what the bugle call means, but Billy fought in Korea, and he knows that when you hear the bugle, that means the commies are coming.
Uh-oh.
Time to go. What Billy didn't realize is this wasn't just a single camp out in the jungle with 3 hooches in it. It was one of about 12 camps of 3 hooches, all in close proximity to each other. And Billy's taken out one of 12, meaning that it wasn't 250 men there. It was like 3,000. Billy has all this run through his head in a matter of a second, has his oh fuck moment, pulls out his flare gun, fires a flare up into the sky, which all of his men know is the signal to retreat back to the rallying point, which is an old cemetery about 650 meters away. It's on top of a hill, so they're going to have the high ground, some cover, and that's where their comms equipment are, so they're going to be able to call in airstrikes. It's the only chance they have of surviving this. As soon as Billy fires a flare, everybody kind of looks at him like, what the fuck's going on? And then immediately machine gun fire opens up and green tracer rounds are flying everywhere, and they all take off running back into the jungle, headed towards that cemetery. At this point, it's complete chaos. Everybody's running off into the jungle in different directions. It's essentially every man for himself. So Billy's running through the jungle. The enemy's about 100 meters behind him, shooting at him. He's dodging all the bullets through nothing but luck, and he gets to within 150 meters of the cemetery, which is great, but the problem is the last 150 meters between him and the cemetery is a rice paddy, which is part of the reason that it would make a great defensive position, because ideally he would be up on that hill in the cemetery with the high ground, and anybody coming to get him would have to...
So, if anyone's questioning why it's bad that there's a rice paddy, but it would have been good for his defensive position, just in case a couple people in chat are not familiar with why this might be bad, rice paddies are basically muck and mire. You're basically having to wade through muck and mire, probably about like shin deep, knee high, etc. And you are not. It's worse than open ground, Alex. It's open ground that you cannot traverse quickly. You are going through a rice paddy, you are slogging. That is a slog to get through it. So not only do you have no cover, you cannot move quickly. Yeah, you've got water and soft mud up to about your knees, and you basically are trudging through this at about turtle speed. And when you have an enemy hot on the 6, opening up on you with everything they got, that's the definition of not good. It would make a great defensive position because their position is going to be behind the rice paddy up on a hill, so anybody trying to come at them would be at the same disadvantage, but now it's working against them. Unfortunately. The only chance that they would have for, like, defense would be to, at some point, like, dive into the rice paddy and try and crawl through it, which would present you a lower target and you might not necessarily be seen, but that is not a good option either, because your movement is now even slower and you are prone and you're basically using it more for cover than you are you're using it more for concealment than you are for cover. So it's like, this is a bad spot to be in right now.
Because ideally he would be up on that hill in the cemetery with the high ground, and anybody coming to get him would have to run through an open rice paddy, being an easy target. But now it's working against him because he's the one that has to run through an open rice paddy, being an easy target. But the enemy's closing in and he doesn't really have a choice, so he takes off running through the open through 6-inch water in this rice paddy, makes it a couple hundred yards, and then takes a bullet to the leg, collapses.
Oof.
He immediately gathers whatever composure he can and starts crawling on all fours over to the side of the rice paddy where there's this big irrigation berm. And he crawls up the side. He's got a little bit of concealment as he looks back and sees that there's over 30 of his men dead in this rice paddy behind him. At this point, everything's gone to shit. There's nothing he can do except try to survive. So he just keeps crawling down the side of this berm. He makes it another couple hundred feet, and then he sees this big man-dug hole. He doesn't know if it's a tunnel. He doesn't know what it's even there for, but he decides he's going to crawl in there and try to hide. It's his best shot. So he pulls himself over the edge and falls into this hole or tunnel opening or whatever the hell it is, and there's so much water and it's so muddy, he's immediately just stuck inside this mud and can't dig himself out. But it's dark. Maybe he can cover himself in the mud and hide here and wait till tomorrow and then make a clean getaway somehow. And as he's in there in this hole, he just hears heavy, labored breathing. So he starts fighting his way through this mud, working his way deeper into this hole, and then turns a little bend and comes face to face with a water buffalo, shits his pants, pulls his knife out immediately, and then realizes this water buffalo's stuck too, and it's blocking the rest of the way. As soon as that happens, Billy hears somebody else jump down in the hole behind him. He whips around, and it's the CIA guy, and the CIA guy's like, they know we're here, we gotta go. Billy, thinking fast, realizes, no, you have to go. I'm stuck in this mud. Don't wait for me. Get out of this hole. Get up to that hill, get the comm equipment, and call in an airstrike. It's the only chance we've got. CIA guy hops back out the hole. He takes off. Billy fights his way out of this mud over the course of the next couple minutes, pulls himself out of the hole, starts crawling towards this cemetery again, and immediately gets hit with another bullet. This time he gets hit in the foot. Billy looks down. His foot is just shredded. It's hamburger meat. He can literally see his bones sticking out the side of his boot. He immediately thinks to himself, fuck, that's the end of my military career. Not, I'm gonna die, not, this is the end. Hasn't given up on making it out of this situation yet. He's such a badass. His only concern is, I'm not gonna be able to jump out of planes with nuclear bombs strapped to me anymore after this. So he
Okay. That's a Chad. The fact that he's like, I'm not gonna die, but god damn it, I can't jump, I can't be an airborne, I can't go airborne anymore. That's like, what more is there to say? The man is an absolute giga Chad. He's like, well, I know I'm not gonna die, but fuck, the army's not gonna let me jump out of a plane with a foot like this. Look more than PFC Bragg during Battle of Bold. Bragg drove and captured German ambulance 20 miles while under continued enemy fire to transport 4 wounded soldiers to an Allied hospital in Belgium, saving at least one of the soldiers' lives. As a result of the enemy fire, Bragg was wounded in action with a light burn. Nice, Bronco. Sounds like they made an excellent choice.
Reaches down into his bag, pulls out his little aid kit, pulls out all 3 morphine syrettes that he has, hits himself with all 3 doses of morphine, waits for a couple seconds, feels a warm, tingly feeling go over him, but that's it. He still has excruciating pain, at which point he realizes, I'm really fucked up. A couple of seconds later, a bunch of American planes come screeching by, dropping bombs and napalm on the wood line that the enemy's inside of, at which point Billy's like, okay, I still got a chance, and he keeps crawling towards the cemetery. Billy's crawling for a couple of minutes, and then all of a sudden, everything goes black.
Oh,
Punching through the blackness, Billy can hear a helicopter off in the distance. Billy wakes up, head pounding, still in excruciating pain, feels his head. He's got a big gash and a nice dent in his forehead where a chunk of bone is missing. What the fuck happened?
What
oh
the
shit,
fuck?
The sun was over there and now it's over there. How much time has passed? He looks at his watch. His watch is gone, and then he's like, oh shit, I was wearing sleeves. Where are my sleeves? He looks down. He is butt-ass naked on the side of this berm, covered in mud that is now baked to his skin. He has no idea what actually happened. His best guess is that he caught a ricochet round to the head, knocked him unconscious, and then the NVA found him, assumed he was dead because how fucked up he was, stripped him of his clothes, stole his Rolex, and left him. So the helicopter lands, they pick Billy up. He finds out that himself and 15 other men were the only ones to survive. The medics start working on him, giving him medication. He passes back out, and for an unknown amount of time, he's just in and out of consciousness. He's in an aid station, then he's in a hospital. He vaguely remembers General Westmoreland visiting him at his bed and giving him his 6th Purple Heart and a Silver Star for Valor. And the next thing he knows, he's back in America in a hospital for the first time in 5 years. So when he really...
Yeah. I mean, that's an operation that went shit sideways in a hurry. They Fine. Yeah, like you said, Leo. 90, they started with 90 and they ended with 16. Fuck. Not only is that like an oh shit kind of thing, but can you imagine how fucking demoralizing that was to the survivors? Like, damn. Oh, shit. And he didn't say if the Delta and CIA guys, like, I'm assuming the CIA guys survived because I'm guessing that's who called in the airstrikes. He didn't say if the 2 other Delta guys survived. I don't know if they did or not. Yeah, they definitely, yeah, I mean, yeah, this was Operation Fubar right here.
He comes around, he's at Walter Reed Medical Center. He figures out everything that happened to him, and while he was in the rice paddy and down in the mud and getting baked in the sun, leeches had made their way into a lot of his wounds, and he had deep infections inside of his leg. And they were talking about amputating his entire leg.
Whoa, no touchy.
What?
Infections inside of his leg, and they were talking about amputating his entire leg.
Oh, shit.
No touchy. No touchy. No touch.
He absolutely doesn't want to lose his leg for obvious reasons, on top of the fact that he still has an aspiration of being able to remain in the military and continue being an operator. So he's begging the doctors, don't amputate it, just keep giving me penicillin. And this goes on for like 3 months and the infection still won't heal. By this point, he's up, he's moving around, he's all together, but he still just has this nasty infection in his leg, at which point he asks the doctor, like, hey, just give me the antibiotics, let me go home on leave for a couple of days, I'll heal up there, leave the cast on, do whatever. So the doctor's like, okay, they give him penicillin, they slap a new cast on, they send him on his way for leave. Rather than going back home to Texas, Billy finds the nearest flight that he can and makes his way back to Saigon. So Billy gets to Vietnam, meets up with some of his Green Beret buddies. They're drinking at a bar. They're telling him that they're part of this new unit that they just started called the Studies and Observation Group, aka SOG. Billy gets filled in on the scope of what this new MACV-SOG unit's supposed to be doing. Basically, they're going into Laos, Cambodia, North Vietnam, and they're conducting guerrilla warfare against the Viet Cong and the NVA. These are all areas where the American military is not supposed to be, so they will not be in uniform. If anything goes wrong or sideways, nobody's coming to rescue them. It is extremely dangerous missions.
And this is when Billy popped probably the biggest boner in the world. You know, he's sitting there, he was sitting there listening to these guys describing this whole up and was just sitting there getting harder and harder, going, oh God. Yeah. Yeah, you son of a bitch, I'm in.
MACV-SOG does a ton of different things during the Vietnam conflict, but to give you an idea of what these guys are doing, you have missions like Operation Eldest Son. Basically, the NVA is using Laos and Cambodia as the neutral territory where they're not supposed to be able to smuggle supplies deep down into South Vietnam so that the Viet Cong have resupply, and that's what's keeping the war going on that front. So MACV-SOG during Operation Eldest Son goes into these territories that they're also not supposed to be, essentially waging a shadow war. They track down where the NVA are and where they're leaving all these weapons caches for the Viet Cong, and then rather than just destroy it so they know they're there, they decide to be sneaky and they go into these weapons caches and swap out a bunch of the weapons, equipment, and ammunition with faulty weapons, equipment, and ammunition.
We heard about this. I think with did he say it during the Colonel was Halfcock one? Where they were basically they weren't simply I can't remember if he talked about this during the Carl's Halfcock video or the Ray Benavides video. It was one of the two. He was talking about how this operation, where it wasn't simply just depriving the enemy of their resources, it was also inflicting psychological warfare against the North Vietnamese. Yeah, basically just making them doubt their own supplies and demoralizing them. Yeah, I mean, did he talk about it in both of the videos? Okay, so yeah, I mean, this was, hello, Midnight Rose. Welcome, Raiders. Welcome in. How's it going? You caught us about 1/4 of the way through, watching a video about one of the most badass Green Berets in history. So
I'm convinced that the round that exploded on Scott and his 50 cal was one of these sabotaged rounds.
You think they had 50 cals back then? I don't know, Andrea. That would have been a 50 cal, so kind of doubt it. What were you guys doing today? What did you guys do during your raid? They had 50 World War... True, they did. Well, cause... I don't know. But yeah, if you guys like learning about some military history told by one of the greatest storytellers around, stick around. We can learn about this absolute chad of a Green Beret in his 50-year career. Well, right now we're worried about It's okay, Rose. Thank you for the raid, and I hope you have a wonderful weekend. Yes, Grumpy, the slap round. Well, okay, but it's... I seriously doubt this is one of the sabotage rounds that MACV-SOG did back during Vietnam. I really kind of doubt it.
The goal being to harbor distrust and demoralize the Viet Cong, because it's pretty hard to wage a war when you go to reload with all the bullets the NVA gave you and then suddenly your gun jams or it blows up in your face because the Americans swapped it out with faulty ammo. And if you want to see what that looks like, my friends Adam and Bryce over at the Ballistic High Speed channel actually did an entire video on Operation Eldest Son where they actually tested this faulty ammunition to see what it would look like in super slow-mo. I'll throw up a clip here now, but they have a full video over on their channel.
Yeah, I saw that video in the feed, and I'm thinking we're probably going to watch that in the near future.
Their channel. After hearing this, Billy said, and I quote, "I hadn't felt this sure of anything since I joined the Special Forces in Germany in 1953. Wounds or no wounds, infection or no infection, limp or no limp, I simply had to be in this unit. There was no doubt about it." So Billy goes back to America, goes back to Walter Reed, ends up defeating that infection over the course of the next couple of months, saves his leg, and then puts in a request for transfer to this new MACV-SOG unit. They absolutely don't want to put him in this unit. At this point, Billy's 38 years old, almost lost his leg. He's still walking with a limp, but according to him, he lied, conned, and connived his way into that unit and ends up becoming the SOG airborne coordinator because he does have a ton of experience and he would still be a useful asset, maybe if not in the field, still in the mental game. Billy takes that job because he knows it's going to get him one step closer to getting back to combat. Over the course of the next 8 months as airborne coordinator, he oversees 5 MACV-SOG teams that conduct 48 cross-border top secret missions.
Nice.
June 1967, Billy gets called into SOG headquarters in Quezon, and he gets briefed on a new mission. A mission that was so important, they were going to shut down all the airspace over Vietnam, and there weren't going to be any aircrafts in the air that weren't directly involved in this mission. As far as the US government is concerned, this is the most important mission on the planet. And as the briefing continues, Billy finds out why this mission is so important, because US intelligence has found out that the NVA's top general, General Giap, is going to be at a secret NVA base inside of Laos, which is a neutral territory, and this is
okay. Am I wrong? But isn't this... Wait, am I confused? Am I confusing his videos? Okay, I think... I was gonna say, didn't we hear about this in the Roy Benavides video? But I think I'm mixing up the events with Old 666, because Old 666 had that mission where they were supposed to bomb the building with the Japanese general, and I think my brain is mixing those two up. Where like, haven't we seen this before? I'm thinking that's what I'm doing. Yeah, I appreciate that, Stephen. I know Old 666 was World War II. I'm thinking I'm mixing up those like events where it was the main character it has a mission to go after an enemy general like this, and I'm thinking I'm mixing them up in my head.
Is going to be one of, if not their only chance to take him out. Taking out General Giap would be a humongous blow to the NVA morale. He is the heart and soul of that entire military. Ho Chi Minh is like the political leader. He's like the president. This is the equivalent to like Patton in World War II to America. He's literally nicknamed the Communist Napoleon and the Red Rommel. If they can take him out, they could literally end the entire war right now. The problem is that the secret NVA base in Laos, codenamed Oscar 8, is a defender's dream. It is geographically perfect, making an assault on land basically impossible. So this is going to have to be an air assault mission, which isn't ideal because, as I'm sure you can imagine, trying to land a helicopter full of troops onto a fortified enemy base isn't a good idea either, but it's the best one we've got. So the plan is they're going to send in a bunch of B-52s. They're going to drop 945 bombs on this base.
Jesus.
And then as soon as that bombing run is done, 2 Marine helicopter gunships are going to come in and do strafing runs on the base. From there, we're going to bring in the transport helicopters with like 50 SOG guys in one big hatchet force. And they're going to be supported overhead by F-4 Phantoms and Sky Raiders, and once these guys draw all the attention, we're going to send in 2 more helicopters on the other side of the base with 2 9-man SOG teams, and their entire objective is to figure out where they're hiding General Giap and take him out. And while all this is going on, Billy, the airborne coordinator for SOG, is going to be up above Oscar 8 in a little tiny Cessna plane, being the eyes in the sky for the men on the ground and reporting back to base. The next morning at 6 a.m., Billy is already up over Oscar 8 doing laps around it, getting a lay of the land, and 9 B-52s take off as they make their way over to Oscar 8 to do their bombing run. Billy's watching as the B-52s approach, and he sees the enemy uncover all of their anti-aircraft guns that are on the ridge overlooking Oscar 8 that they did not know were there. The anti-aircraft guns open up on the B-52s, but the B-52s are so high they barely even notice, continue their bombing run as planned, dropping 945 bombs directly on top of this base. But Billy is still having his oh fuck moment, because while it's not a problem for the B-52s, it is absolutely going to be a problem for the helicopters that are coming in much lower than the B-52s were. And those helicopters are coming in like 2 minutes. So Billy gets on his radio, abort mission, abort, pull back now. Radio silence, nothing's going through. Billy's panicking, he's switching over to different channels. He's having the pilot of the airplane in front of him try to use his radio. Nothing's getting through. At this point, Billy can literally do nothing but continue trying to get a radio message through as he watches in horror as the 2 Marine gunships approach, begin their strafing run, and both immediately get shot down. As soon as the gunships impact the ground, Billy can already see the transport helicopters coming with the hatchet forces, but the way that the planes crashed, they tucked themselves up inside the ridge, so those helicopter pilots that are coming in aren't going to be able to see the crash until it's too late. Billy's still trying to get through on radio, telling the hatchet forces not to land, but he can't get through, and they go to make their landing and both get shot down as well. And Billy is watching tens of men falling out of these helicopters as the helicopters plummet to the ground. From Billy's perspective, everything's moving in slow motion and fast forward all at the same time. He's watching men crawling out of burning helicopters as the 2 F-4 Phantoms come screeching by, traveling at Mach 2 and attempt to hit these anti-aircraft guns. One of them gets shot down as well. As the SOG hatchet forces continue exiting the helicopter, going...
Jesus, and we thought that the last mission went foobar. This is a Mongolian clusterfuck of a foobar at this point. Oh Holy shit. This has gotta have been a fucking horror show for him. Like, I mean, I think this took Murphy's Law and took a big fat dump on it before wiping his ass with it. It's like, and for Billy himself, like, he's gotta be sitting there absolutely horrified by what he sees, because all of this is playing out in front of him in real time, and he can't do a fucking thing about it. And he's seeing all of these men going down one after another, and it's gotta be tearing him fucking apart. It's... Jesus.
Going into bomb craters, picking up defensive positions because they're completely surrounded by hundreds of NVA soldiers. Then the Sky Raiders show up and one of them is shot down as well, and then the Hatchet forces are actually able to communicate with Billy via radio. They tell Billy they've got 25 men alive, but they're completely surrounded, as the pilot tells Billy, we're almost out of fuel, we have to turn back now or we're not gonna make it. Billy tells the Hatchet forces on the ground to hunker down, he's gonna be back. As they make their way back to the airstrip, he finally reestablishes communication with headquarters, and they don't know
Yeah, I was gonna say, are you talking about Snafu, Shadows? That's... although I would say Fubar is worse than Snafu. Fubar is what you use when everything basically goes absolutely tits up. Snafu is much more lightweight by comparison. So yeah, this is definitely like Ultra Fubar right now.
Anything. Billy immediately fills in the chain of command. There's 2 downed gunships, 2 downed transport helicopters, a downed F4, and a downed Sky Raider. He then gives them a description of where that ridge is with all the anti-aircraft guns, and they immediately send over planes to begin bombing that area. In addition to that, they also basically make a circle of bombs and napalm strikes around the surviving Hatchet members, and just continue doing bombing run and napalm run after bombing run and napalm run, creating a wall of death protecting them. Billy makes his way back to the airstrip. The plane lands. He jumps out, runs, finds the best helicopter pilot they have, a guy by the name of Mustachio. They jump in a helicopter and take off, headed back to Oscar 8. Billy guides Mustachio to the different downed helicopters as that ridge line with the anti-aircraft guns is still getting absolutely bombarded, taking the plane down, picking up all the surviving members from these helicopter crews, and bringing them back to the airstrip. By the time they make it back to the airstrip, the Cessna's been refueled and ready to go. Billy hops out of the helicopter, hops into the Cessna. They take off back to Oscar 8 again. The only surviving members on the ground are the members of the Hatchet forces that are being pinned down by hundreds of NVA soldiers, but at least the anti-aircraft guns have been completely obliterated. By this point, Billy's overhead, but the sun's already going down, and they're not going to be able to get helicopters on the ground in the dark with hundreds of enemy soldiers surrounding them. So the Hatchet members are just going to have to fight all through the night as they call in C-130 Spectre gunships to give fire support. The Spectre gunships, the bombing runs, and the napalm runs continue to protect these guys all through the night while Billy is constantly flying overhead in his Cessna, observing everything. At first light the next day, they bring in 4 transport helicopters, landing them in the bomb craters next to the bomb crater that they're inside of, picking up the surviving Hatchet Force members. They get back to the airfield, they do a head count, and there's still 24 men that are missing in action. For the next 4 days, Billy and the rescue crews canvass the entire area looking for any sign of these men so that they could go down and rescue them, and for days they don't see anything. And on the 4th day, as they're flying over, Billy spots a bright red rescue panel. They pivot, shift the plane to fly closer, and it's actually sitting on top of a SOG member's chest. As they get closer, the SOG member raises his arm, giving the thumbs up, and Billy marks the area, and they got to come back and get him. Billy immediately calls in a rescue helicopter, explaining that it is more than likely a trap, but they have to go in and save him anyways. He instructs the aircrew this is going to be an extremely dangerous mission, and their best chance is to have one guy rappel out of the side of the helicopter to the ground with an extra harness, hook up this other member of the team that's injured, and pick them both up as they dangle from the helicopter and fly them out of the immediate area, find somewhere else to land to actually get them inside of the helicopter, and that's exactly what ends up happening. Luckily, while it was a trap, the NVA members, after the first 3 days, abandoned the idea and figured that they weren't going to come back and save this guy, and just left him to die out in this open field to the elements. So nobody actually attacked the helicopter, and they saved this SOG member. That SOG member's name was Charles Wicklow, and he is the only SOG operator to ever be captured by the enemy and get to return home. This gave Billy hope that there might still be more men out there, and he continued to canvass that area for 5 more days, finding nothing, not even a trace.
Damn.
February 2nd, 1970, Billy has fully recovered from his injuries. He's no longer walking with a limp, and he is ready to get back into the action at the age of 41 years old. Billy is told that he needs to report to his CO's office with all of his gear and alone. Billy is ecstatic because he knows that this means he's about to get orders to go do some gangster shit. The commanding officer then briefs Billy that inside Cambodia, there is a Cambodian military outpost that was heavily used by the NVA, and that's who was supplying them with absolutely everything, and in return, they were allowing the NVA to use it kind of as a way station. Intel says that the NVA hasn't been there in months. They basically abandoned the Cambodians there, and they have not received any supplies. A lot of them are starving and suffering from malaria and other diseases. So the chain of command wants Billy to lead a team to go in and see if he can potentially switch this Cambodian outpost from an NVA ally to an American ally. At which point Billy is like, just to be clear, you want me to go in deeper into enemy territory than anybody has ever been to, last we knew, enemies, and who knows, maybe they're gonna shoot me on sight, maybe I'll be welcomed, and see if they're willing to come over and play on our team. And he's like, yeah, that's pretty much it. At which point,
And then Billy was like, I'm in. Billy's probably vibrating with excitement, hearing this mission spelled out to him. He's probably just, he's like that, you know, motion meme. The guy sitting at a table in a restaurant just glowing orange because every molecule in his body is moving at light speed, but he himself is not in motion. Okay, to put it more bluntly, he's got to be rock hard right now, hearing this mission detailed out to him.
Billy is like, dope, I'm in, let's do this. So Billy goes, he grabs 2 more SOG guys, he grabs a commo specialist, a demolition man, and then he grabs an interpreter, and they take off in a helicopter into Cambodia. So they go in, they land the helicopter, Billy hops out, trying to make himself appear as though he's coming in peace, which he is. They're definitely not shooting at him yet, so that's a good sign right off the bat. People kind of start to gather around the helicopter, and then as the people start to gather around, the man in charge shows up, a elderly man that's known as Colonel Savut. He has very, very yellow jaundice eyes, a gunshot wound, and a big nasty scar on his head that's long since healed. Billy and him begin communicating through the interpreter, and the colonel basically tells him like, yeah, I don't fucking like the NVA guys. They treated all my people like shit. They kind of just took all the supplies that they wanted, not caring how many supplies they left us. We've been starving and riddled with disease forever. And Billy is like, I can help with literally all of that. Goes over to the helicopter, opens up a case of just piss warm Budweiser, hands the colonel one. He's pumped, pops the top, chugs the entire thing, and begins handing out Budweisers to all of his other officers.
Bring you a beer. Sorry about you. Yeah.
Now at this point, the colonel asks Billy, okay, cool, if we work with you, how are you going to protect us? Because right now the NVA is leaving us alone to basically starve and die of disease, but if they find out that we're working with you, they're going to come slaughter all of us. Billy thought way ahead, and he knew this question would pop up. He already has F-4 Phantoms up in the air doing hot laps around their immediate area.
Nice.
So he goes over to the colonel and is like, I'll tell you what, point to anything off in the distance that you don't like. The colonel then points over to this small cluster of trees off in the distance that are kind of standing out on their own. Billy looks over at the commo guy and is like, send it, and within 60 seconds, the F-4 Phantoms screech by, dropping bombs right on top of the trees. All the Cambodian men start cheering, and the colonel's like, we're in. Billy immediately tells the helicopter crew they can return to where they came from, radios in, and tells them to just start sending in all of the supplies. American helicopters start showing up just one after another, bringing food, guns, medicine, medics, concertina wire, everything they need to fortify this position, feed the people, and start treating malaria. The Cambodians are blown away by how much shit the Americans are bringing in and how fast it's coming in. They're basically gonna have their own Burger King in the next 48 hours. It's American diplomacy done to perfection.
You guys know the joke. You guys know the story behind that joke, right? Have you guys heard Nick talk about that? He on the Unsub podcast. This perk
coming in. They're basically gonna have their own Burger King in the next 48 hours.
Okay, so for those that don't listen to the Unsub podcast, Nick has talked about this. The United States military literally has its own deployable Burger King that it can get to anywhere in the world in like 24 hours. It's literally like a cargo ship container that is a full-on fucking Burger King, and it can be deployed anywhere in the world in 24 hours. You want to give the guy, you know, when you know the guys that were in Afghanistan, You want to give them a treat and let them get Burger King? You send the fucking mobile Burger King in 24 hours. It's set up, it's fired, it's going, the boys are getting a Burger King. This is a real fucking thing. That the U.S. military has a mobile Burger King. Oh, it's a fantastic morale booster. What is gonna make a soldier, a marine, a sailor, any of them? Like, what could be, what could be better than what are we fighting for? Burger King shows up the next day. I'm pretty sure it's loaded on the C-130. I'm pretty sure that's what they're gonna use to transport a Cadillac. But yeah, I mean, I'm sorry. What more can I say? But
It's American diplomacy done to perfection. You show up with guns, booze, and ham sandwiches and start handing them out. It doesn't matter who it is. When you gift them with the American trifecta of diplomacy, they're always like, you know what? This motherfucker's all right. The next day, Billy begins working and training these Cambodian soldiers, getting them ready to go up toe-to-toe with the NVA. And these guys, while they're not great soldiers yet, they're super enthusiastic because they've got food, they've got medicine, and they don't like the NVA because they treated them like shit to begin with. Within days, Billy's taking the Cambodians out and doing recon patrols, capturing and spying on NVA soldiers. Over this time, Billy and Colonel Savut end up becoming pretty good friends, and he ends up eventually getting to the point while they're drinking one night, like, okay, what the fuck happened to your forehead? Why do you got like a chunk of your skull missing? And he proceeds to tell Billy the story of how him and one of his best friends got in an argument over who was a better shot with a pistol. So naturally, they decided to have a competition to see who was in fact a better shot, and the way they decided to go about it was they were going to put a beer bottle on their head and let their friend shoot the beer bottle off the top of their head.
Who attended these two copies of William fucking Tell? I guarantee you. Well, no, I'm not going to guarantee you. It would not surprise me at all if the ending of the story is I got the idea from William Tell. Because that's the only way this works.
Obviously. Colonel Savut apparently went first and shot the beer bottle clean off his buddy's head, and then his buddy went second to see if he was just as good of a shot and proceeded to shoot Colonel Savut directly in the head. At which point Billy's blown away and he's like, man, I bet you're not friends with that guy anymore. And he's like, no, we're literally best friends to this day.
Yeah.
Sorry, I thought you were a deer.
At which point Billy's like, all right, I'm gonna go keep conducting raids now. Bye-bye. So SOG and the Cambodians continued to harass the NVA, and then on March 1st, one of the SOG operatives that was leading a team of Cambodians actually gets injured in combat. Cambodians get this guy back to the base, and Billy has to get this guy out to a real hospital as soon as possible. So he hops on the radio and he sends out a transmission just trying to pick up any nearby friendly aircraft. Luckily enough, an American plane responds. He's like, hey, what's up? Billy's like, I've got a medevac going on right now. Can you help out with that? He's like, yeah, I'm just on a milk run. I'm delivering supplies, but I have standing orders that I can help with any medevac, period. Where are you? Nice. Now remember, Billy is inside of Cambodia. Americans are not supposed to be inside of Cambodia at this point. This is all top secret shit. So Billy, not wanting to say I'm in Cambodia over the open radio waves, is like, I'm 32 kilometers directly west of Duck Ho, and Duck Ho is like right on the Vietnam-Cambodian border. And the pilot's like, dope, I'm on my way. Apparently not realizing that would put him well into Cambodia. So now the plane's on the way. Billy has all the Cambodians clearing a bunch of shit out of the way to make a makeshift runway for a plane. All the other stuff they've had come in so far has been on helicopters. Nobody's supposed to be landing planes here. But he's got a guy to save, and we've got to fucking figure it out. So they clear everything out. They get as big of a runway as they possibly can. This plane shows up, does a hot lap around it, scoping out the landing field, and the pilot messages back down like, how sturdy is that ground? This is a really short runway. And Billy's like, oh, it's sturdy. I checked it. So the pilot circles back around.
It's fine. No problems.
ground, lands the plane. The ground was not sturdy. He ends up sinking the tires and the plane is now stuck in mud. The pilot gets out all pissed off, like, I thought you told me the ground was sturdy, and where the fuck even are we? At which point Billy's like, welcome to the Bakev International Airport. And the pilot's like, Bakev's in Cambodia. And Billy's like, uh-huh. And this dude just immediately starts shitting his pants. Like, he's not supposed to be in Cambodia. He's thinking like he is now part of an international incident because he just downed a plane and it is now stuck in the mud in a country he's not even supposed to be in.
This poor guy.
Did you know?
Uh-oh.
Yes.
Worth mentioning, the plane that he landed was a C-123 Provider. It's a fucking cargo plane, okay? This is not a small aircraft. But Billy's basically like, okay, chill, just what do you need to get this plane up off the ground? And the pilot's like, well, first, we're gonna have to undig it out of the mud. We're gonna have to pull it back to that tree line to give me as much runway as possible, and that's still not gonna be enough runway to clear the other tree line on the other end of it. At which point the pilot's like, I'm gonna need J-tow bottles to get this plane off the ground before I have to hit those trees. If you don't know, J-tow bottles are jet takeoff bottles. They're literally jets that you can strap to the side of a plane to get it more speed right out of the gate, to generate more lift, to get the plane off the ground on a shorter runway. And the pilot is shitting his pants because obviously you're not going to be able to get J-tow bottles inside of Cambodia, but Billy isn't worried about it at all. Hops on the radio. He's Billy Waugh. They're going to give him whatever the fuck he wants, no questions asked. The J-tow bottles show up, and then they strap that to the plane. The plane takes off, gets in the air, crisis averted. The dude's getting sent to the hospital. Hooray. Once the plane gets up in the air, Billy Waugh radios to the pilot one last time, like, hey, thanks for the help, at which point the pilot replies, Sergeant Major, don't ever fucking call me again. And he leaves. Shortly after this, Billy receives intel that the NVA are building up a massive
he was a
force
sergeant
of troops,
major at
and
this
he is
point.
the obvious target that they are coming to take out because they are sick of him harassing them. This tells Billy his work here is done. He then proceeds to evac himself, all the Americans, and then every Cambodian man, woman, and child that were living at that outpost into southern Vietnam, and lets the government take over from there.